about how to set the whole thing up with
So what are we going to pay?
Funding. Yes. And it's all the stuff. All the stuff, because you never know where that company, you never know where he's going to be.
Gets it, but
correct. So I'm all over that, and I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be.
Listen, what financing?
We'll have to pay you. So
I'll pay for cash.
No. I got no.
Check.
Cash? Check? No. That conversation. But the weeks of trial we have already watched, what we've already been through, leading to the big moments today where Michael Cohen described all the details of that $130,000 hush money payment to Stormy Daniels. It occurred at a time, he noted, when his boss, Donald Trump, was already polling poorly with women because of the release of the Access Hollywood tape. Now, the lawyer for the prosecution, Susan Hoffinger, when discussing Stormy Daniels' claims, asked Cohen this, quote, "What, if anything, did you think about the potential impact that might have on the campaign?" Catastrophic, Cohen says, quote, "horrible for the campaign." Cohen testified that when he shared with his then boss the fact that Stormy's story had resurfaced with just weeks to go ahead of the 2016 presidential election, Donald Trump was very angry. He said this, quote, "I thought you took care of this. I thought this was under control." It was Trump. To which he followed up to Cohen, quote, "Just take care of it." The ex-president told Michael Cohen to work with David Pecker, who we know from David Pecker's testimony, responded when it came to paying off Stormy Daniels by drawing a line in the sand and saying, quote, "I am not a bank," leaving it desperate and now berated by his boss, Michael Cohen, to do what he could figure out how to do to take care of it at Trump's direction. So Michael Cohen then testified that Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Keith Davidson, wanted an immediate wire transfer of the hush money to keep that Stormy story out of the news. But Michael Cohen was trying to push it beyond the election, as he had been instructed to do by, wait for it, Trump. Saying a sentence that gets to the heart of the case, Trump's intent. Cohen said, quote, "I was following directions." In just the last hour or so, we heard Michael Cohen go through in, again, excruciating detail, the back and forth that he had around his making of the hush money payment, reiterating that, quote, "the whole purpose of this transaction was to keep it quiet, to keep it confidential." Cohen testified to making the payment through an LLC called Essential Consultants. He set it up just for this single purpose, about which he lied in one of his bank forums because he knew they wouldn't have opened it if they knew its true intent was to pay hush money to Stormy Daniels, a porn star, on behalf of Trump ahead of an election.
Right, Nicole. Look, the jury here today, here in the middle of May 2024, heard from a man who says that he was working as the middleman for the soon-to-be president of the United States, Donald Trump. What he told this jury here today was that he was the operative working behind the scenes to silence the salacious stories from getting to the American public, and that the entire time when it was Dino the doorman who alleged that he had a story about a love child of Donald Trump's, it was $30,000 payment that made its way to Dino the doorman to silence him. Who was apprised of that arrangement? Donald Trump. You had Karen McDougal, the Playboy playmate, who alleged a 10-month affair with Donald Trump. And who was the one directing and who was the one apprised every step of the way of that arrangement of $150,000 to pay her off? Donald Trump. Who was the middleman? Michael Cohen. And then you have Stormy Daniels. And here in riveting testimony today, Michael Cohen saying that he was, in fact, told by Donald Trump to make her story go away. On October 8th, 2016, he tells this jury that he had a phone call with Donald Trump the day after the Access Hollywood tape dropped, the day before a presidential debate. And on that phone call, Donald Trump was frustrated to hear that Stormy Daniels was shopping around her story of her alleged affair with Donald Trump. And then, though, you have other phone calls over the intervening weeks in which Michael Cohen says that phone records show that the two men engaged about the effort to not only have that story go away, but also attempt to have it go away after the 2016 election without having to actually pay Stormy Daniels that $130,000. But then you have Michael Cohen saying on October 28th, he had a 5-minute phone call with Donald Trump in which he told his boss, the man that he referred to as the boss or Mr. Trump, that the story was gone, that it was taken care of. He had taken out a home equity line of credit to make sure that in those final 2 weeks, the American public would not learn about her story. So the jury now has a man himself who says that he effectively worked on behalf of Donald Trump. The quote of the morning, quote, "I was following directions." Those are the words that the jury now has to reckon with here.
You know, Donnie, there were some details. I've only known Michael Cohen on the other side of his love-hate relationship. I've only known him on the hate side of his love-hate relationship with Donald Trump. But some of the testimony spanned the love side. And there were two things, and I know this jumped out at you too, Andrew, where he said, how would you feel when he thanked you for solving his most vexing, we'll just call them sordid kinds of issues? And he said, quote, "I felt like I was on top of the world." And the other detail that I know, I've interviewed him on the show a ton, I've talked to him a ton, I've read his books, that when he's offered the job, he never goes back to his old office. It's like the dream job. He's offered the job, he stays, and someone else goes and gathers all of his stuff. I don't know that I appreciated how much he loved working for Trump.
He loved it. I'll never forget, Michael was making a bar mitzvah for his son, and he was as much focused on whether Donald Trump was going to come to that bar mitzvah. That meant it was almost like a father who was out of town. Are you going to make it? Are you going to make it? I mean, it was an ongoing thing for him to come to his son's bar mitzvah. His own self-worth was completely tied up. If you really think about Trump and all the words you used for Trump, I mean for Cohen, you know, belligerent and tenacious and pugnacious, and it's Trump. I mean,
he's
Trump,
been more than his own son.
Trump, he's a lot more. That's a great point. He is a lot more like Trump than Trump's own sons. And he, to this day, I think there's this sick affection deep down in there. He just was mesmerized. It gave him his reason to stick his chest out, and he stuck it out. And that's why there's a lot of people having issues with him, because he would have literally taken a bullet for him. He took out a home equity loan to pay off. It's
Donnie, he went to jail for him. I mean, I get you on the home equity loan, but he goes on to go to jail for him. And
I really felt that, first of all, seeing just the fidelity he had to him and the admiration he had to him, it really does explain the hate. And I don't know if in a new way, but you really, you understood it today. The court didn't see that, though. And I felt the examination by Susan Hoffinger was very, almost bordering on sterile. There were a lot of yes, no questions, and Michael would answer it, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. He wasn't asked to elaborate on meetings, and they very much tied him both to corroborate evidence that has already come in, conversations, or we're getting to the document phase, but I think in the conversations he was able to take us into some of the meetings that we've wondered about. We've heard about them from other witnesses, but to be able to hear on all three of the hush money payments, particularly the Stormy Daniels one, because it's the one in question, we were able to hear some of the conversations that happened between the two men, and some of it was corroborating, some of it was new, but Susan Hoffinger kept it very tight. It was moving so quickly, we thought the direct would get done today. So you didn't see any sort of explosive Michael Cohen. I think that's, I'm pretty sure we're going to get a taste of that on cross-examination, but she was trying to, it almost felt like, get him off the stand all day.
Have to say? You have any messages for Donald Trump today? You plan on telling the truth? Michael, any comment?
It's embarrassing, okay? So look, who have we got here? J.D. Vance, Eric Trump, Tommy Tuberville. What is the point? What is the point? And the networks just show it
Let me make just a few observations here, and then I'll kick it over to Senator Tuberville, and we can go down the line here. But number one, I'm here for the simple reason to show support for a friend. I think this trial is absolutely ridiculous. I think it's a sham prosecution. And I think that luckily the president's supporters should know that he's actually in great spirits despite the circumstances of this. He should be out on the campaign trail, but of course he's here with this trial. Let me say something about what I've witnessed so far in my couple hours in there. First of all, Michael Cohen is the prosecution's star witness. This guy is a convicted felon who admitted in his testimony that he secretly recorded his former employer, that he only did it once, allegedly, and that this was supposed to help Donald Trump. Does any reasonable, sensible person believe anything that Michael Cohen says? I don't think that they should, and I actually think that his testimony is going to hurt with any reasonable juror, and hopefully we have a few of those. I want to say two other things here very quickly. Number one, the thing that the president is prevented from saying, which is a disgrace, is that every single person involved in this prosecution is practically a Democratic political operative. The judge inside, his daughter, is making millions of dollars running against Donald Trump, raising money for Donald Trump's political opponents. The number 3 person to the Department of Justice, Biden's Department of Justice, left to become a local prosecutor to go after Donald Trump. And of course, there's Alvin Bragg, a Soros-funded prosecutor who promised to go after Donald Trump and now is doing exactly that. Now, look, whether you love Donald Trump, whether you like Donald Trump, or whether you're a Democrat or don't care about politics, what's going on inside that courtroom is a threat to American democracy, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot have a country where you get to prosecute your political opponents instead of persuading voters. Joe Biden's entire strategy is to try to distract from inflation at home and war overseas with this sham trial. I just want to live in a reasonable country where we try to persuade voters in our politics. We don't try to throw our political opponents in jail. So this is a disgrace, and I wanted to be here to show some support for my friend. And speaking of my friend, here's Senator Tuberville.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Vance. Yeah, Auburn fan here. I want to reiterate the same thing. First of all, I'm disappointed in the courtroom. I'm hearing Mr. Trump, he is former President Trump. Give him some respect. I mean, that's what that place is in there. It's no respect. Here's what I'm seeing, too. It is depressing. That courtroom is depressing. This is New York City, the icon of our country, and we got a courtroom that's the most depressing thing I've ever been in. Mental anguish is trying to be pushed on the Republican candidate for the President of the United States this year. That's all this is. He's been here a month. I am disappointed in looking at the supposedly American citizens in that courtroom, that the DA comes in and he acts like it is his Super Bowl. And I guess it is, to be noticed. But that's what's happening in this country. The Republican candidate for President of the United States is going through mental anguish in a courtroom that's very depressing. Very depressing. I'm glad to stand by President Trump. I'm a friend of his. I'm here more as a friend than backing him as candidate as president. I'm sitting there listening to a guy on the stand that they had to get out of house arrest because he lied in another court to testify in this court. He's a convicted felon. I mean, this guy, he's up there giving an acting scene, and all of a sudden he comes out and says, "Oh, I have recorded President Trump on my telephone." This guy worked for President Trump. I mean, how can you be convinced by somebody that is a serial liar? I mean, there should be no reason that anybody should listen to this guy. But at the end of the day, the Democrats are trying to beat President Trump in the jury box because they can't beat him at the ballot box. That's end of story. So I'm from the South. I'm here today to represent and to pay my respects to what President Trump is going through. It's a tough time for him. But you saw what happened this weekend. He's got more support than ever because what they're putting him through in that class, in that courtroom. Thank you.
Why do you think it's appropriate to talk about the judge's daughter when the judge is
What's up?
not to talk about it?
Congresswoman Nicole Maliotakis. I represent Staten Island and Brooklyn here in New York City. I'm also here to support President Trump. The case is called the people of the state of New York versus Donald J. Trump. But the people of the state of New York know that this is a sham trial. The people of America know that it is a sham trial, and it is based on a star witness that is a convicted, disbarred perjurer who lied to Congress multiple times, has admitted to lying before Congress, and has been convicted of lying. What I'll say is the people of the state of New York would wish that Alvin Bragg, the district attorney who brought this case, would focus on the actual crime that is taking place and plaguing our city. All right, we have drug smugglers that are poisoning our children. We have illegal immigrant gang members wreaking havoc in our city. We see career criminals being released over and over again. And we see a district attorney that reduces or drops charges against the criminals who are plaguing New York. And yet here you have a made up charge for something that's not even within his jurisdiction, that the FEC has said that there is no crime, that the DOJ has said there is no crime. And so it's truly outrageous that this is how District Attorney Alvin Bragg is choosing to use New Yorkers' tax dollars, wasting precious courtroom time on this sham trial.
I'm Iowa Attorney General Brenna Byrd, and I came all the way from Iowa to show our strong support that we have for President Trump. He won our caucuses, the first in the nation caucuses, by more than any other candidate ever has. And he will do a great job. We need him back as our president, leading our country again. My background is as a prosecutor, and what I saw in that courtroom today is a travesty. Politics has no place in a court of law. Politics should be out on the campaign trail. But instead, because of these charges that are a scam and a sham, our President Trump, is tied up in court when he should be out on the campaign trail. And I worry for the future of our country if this is the direction that campaigns are going to take, when Biden knows that he cannot defeat President Trump. So instead, they try to charge him with all of these ridiculous things that include a star witness who's a perjurer, disbarred, convicted of lying. It tells us the state we are in this country right now when that's what's happening. What we need to do is get politics out of the courtroom and let President Trump get back on the campaign trail. Let the American people decide who the next leader of the free world will be. And politics has absolutely no place in this courtroom or any other. Thank you.
I'm Steve Marshall, the Attorney General for Alabama. 30 years I have been a prosecutor and cared desperately about what goes on in our criminal justice system, and I have never seen in my career a greater perversion of the criminal justice system than I witnessed this morning. We had more questions about Michael Cohen's feelings than we did connecting him to any criminal offense. When I was a district attorney, I had the privilege of being able to work with Cy Vance. I know that his team reviewed these facts and rejected any effort to use the resources of this city to pursue a sham prosecution. We've seen federal authorities who are directed to investigate matters relating to our elections that have chosen not to pursue criminal charges relating to these same facts. A Department of Justice who has been weaponized by this administration, who also have refused to pursue charges, but yet we want a perjurer to get on that stand today to try and somehow convince that jury that Donald Trump has committed a criminal offense. There is no basis for this crime. This is simply an effort to keep Donald Trump in New York City so he can't go out and speak to the people of this country about why he should be reelected as president. I've seen nothing here that has demonstrated what I didn't know when I walked in, and that is this is not an effective use of the resources of this city. I sat in that courtroom wondering what victims are waiting to be able to get justice for their families, to take violent offenders off these streets. They can't do it because the resources are being spent on something that's not worthwhile. We're privileged to be here. grateful to be here with my senior senator to show support for a man that needs to be back on the campaign trail speaking to the people of this country.
So just one final thought, ladies and gentlemen, to all the American voters and American people who are watching this, the one opportunity you get to speak up against this sham prosecution and to say the American people elect their president, not corrupt DNC prosecutors, is to vote for Donald Trump in November. Thank you all. God bless you.
Congresswoman, New York 1. Can we just get a couple of quick comments since we came late?
Get a podium, please. Just go to the podium.
All right.
Inside Donald Trump's prison cell, the surroundings are like any other small, enclosed space. The walls are gray concrete, and a narrow cot with a thin mattress is the only piece of furniture. A tiny metal sink and toilet combo sit in one corner, while a small barred window allows a sliver of natural light to filter in. The sound of clanking bars echoes through the air as guards patrol the hallway outside.
What is... President Trump is 76 years old. He will die in federal prison.
Trump spends his days pacing the limited floor space. The once powerful man now finds himself in a place of confinement.